Okay, hello everybody. We are going to tie, as you saw in the thumbnail, a Barr's mute whistle. So we're going to start with taking our brass bead and we're going to put our hook in our vise. This is a size 8 just long shank hook by Mustad. It is, yeah, size 8 streamer hook. I like it. It's like a good little, it's a good size for smallmouth. So once we got our bead on there and we have our hook and our vise, as you can see right in the bend of the hook, actually, I'm going to get that a little bit further out, just, you'll see why in a minute. But get that right on the bend of the hook and we're going to slide our bead all the way forward and we're going to start getting our wraps in, get our thread hooked up. Where did I put my sizzles? There. Okay. So get wraps all the way back to where the hook bend starts to bend. We're just doing that just so the zonker strip has something to hook into. So once you get it there, take a couple wraps and then bring it back about 3/4 of the way up, right about there, not 3/4, like 2/3. And then slide your bead back a little bit. So we're gonna start with our zonker strip. You want to cut it into a V, and then what I did was I went ahead and I just scraped off some of the hair off the tip of it so that you can, just so it's an easier tying in point. And to measure it, what I'm going to do for this pattern is we're going to put the bead sort of right here so that it's going to be kind of hidden because the fish around me are kind of pressured, and we are going to do our best to hide all of this weight, and the bead just doesn't look very natural. So to measure it, we're going to take our zonker strip, take our piece that's cut, and we're going to lay it right up next to that bead, and then we're going to take it, and you want it to be about the length of a hook behind the hook bend, about there. So take it in your fingers, try to peel your fibers back so you're not cutting good fibers. And then once you get that, take your scissors again. Don't make fun of my scissors, that's not nice. Cut that off. I don't worry about trying to cut it at an angle or do anything fancy with it. It doesn't really matter. Go ahead, just with your fingers, go ahead and try to pull some loose fibers out, throw them in the trash, and then you're going to hold it up again. Put it right up next to that bead. Don't forget your bead might move around because it's not tied down. And then you want to insert the hook in the middle right about where the hook starts to bend. So taking your fingers, remember that spot, and put it right in the middle of your zonker strip. There you go. Once it's past the barb, you're good. That's locked in, and that's why we put our vise in the middle of the bend so that we have space for it. So now we have time. We can just kind of pull everything back so we have space to work. We're not putting in fibers or anything and making that zonker strip go weird. So now we're going to start with our rubber legs. I have this black and like sort of chartreuse yellow rubber leg. If you have a darker green, that would probably be better, but it doesn't really matter. I just have this big pack I bought off of Amazon, and it has pretty much all the different color variations that I would need for now. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that and we're going to cut this one in half. So scissors again. So you can see they're pretty much even, and they are going to be a little bit longer than the length of your zonker strip when it's sitting off the back, but if we're going to cut it down to be about the same length or even shorter, so that's the length you want to go for. So the best way I've found to tie these in is just to take it around your thread and then just pinch the ends of it, and we're going to start on the far side first. All you got to do literally is just hold it so the rubber leg goes down, and then you just do a wrap and then do another wrap right behind it, and then once you got that full loop in, you can take it and just bend it around to where they're coming right off the side of your hook shank. And then we're going to do the same thing for the other side, except it's going to be more complicated because that's how life is. Take it up, and this one, you gotta be more careful because if you don't do it right, you're going to make your other legs come loose because your thread's going to get loose. So just kind of take your rubber legs and pin them with your finger down, take a wrap. Since your other legs are already tied in good, you can just go right in on top of them, and then there you go. Perfect. You can adjust these two so that they're coming off the side. Look down the shank so they look good, and then take them, pin them back, and then take some wraps in front, and even if you want a couple wraps on top of, just to make sure everything stays locked in and facing backwards. So now that we got that in, we are going to take some wire for weight because the zonker strip takes a while to get wet and saturated, and it's going to need a little help going down. So we're just going to take a little bit of 0.05 lead wire and wrap that in right behind where our thread wraps were, and try to make those as tight and close as you can get them. And this just not only adds weight, but it also helps with making sure the fly floats and strips more horizontally in the water. And we're going to lock those in with some crossing wraps over and under. Once you do that, you can kind of just tie on top of it. And then we are going to lock our bead in by doing the exact same thing on the bead. Create a nice little thread dam on top right in front of it, and then loop it back behind it. Take a wrap, wrap and cross, wrap and cross. Just a couple of them. You don't got to worry about it too much. You're going to have material in front and behind it. Okay, now that we have that in, we can go ahead and tie in our zonker strip. So you're going to take it, this fly is going to be fished upside down to what it is right now. And so you want the skin part, you want to be facing up how it is oriented right now. You're going to slide it up to where the edge of that zonker strip is right on top of the lead. And then you're going to reinsert your hook into your vise, like so. And then pick it up and tie it in. Try to tie it in as even on the hook shank, not varying left or right as much as you can. And then just sort of work that zonker strip down and really lock it in. Give it some good pulls, give your thread some good pulls so you don't have to worry about that strip ever coming out. Okay, that looks really good. Now we're going to take some marabou. I got some olive green marabou. You want to just take the tip for your meat whistle, and you're going to tie that in right behind your rubber legs, and then advance your thread up right behind your bead. And then go ahead and just start wrapping. You don't have to palmer this, but if you want to, you're absolutely fine. If the fibers are a little bit longer than you want, don't worry about it, because you can always get it smaller. The thing I love about this pattern is it's super simple, and it's just a little bit more complicated than a woolly bugger, but it's a really nice pattern. It's something different, and it's fun to tie. So once you get a couple locking wraps in on that end piece, you can go ahead and just pull it right off. And then go ahead, pull all your fibers back, and take a couple wraps right there behind the bead so that everything is good and solid and locked in. And then take your thread right up to the front of your bead. And then what I'm going to do, this normally is tied with flash, but I have this fancy chocolate filler flash for my game changers. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut a little piece off about 1 inch long there. So this is what I'm using, and this is how long it is, just a little bit, because it's not gonna, there's not obviously a lot of length there, not a lot of real estate there. So if you were wanting to use flash, what you would do is you just take your flash, bend it in half, and you'd install it right behind your rubber legs the exact same way. And oh, that's the, so take your flash. You don't want to get that hook eye too dirty or too crowded, otherwise it's going to be a pain to get your line through. So try to get all the fibers back behind, and then make sure when you wrap this in, you're catching the actual string that everything is sort of tied to, and not just the fibers. Otherwise you're increasing your chances that everything just kind of pulls out. And you're going to want to do the same thing when you're tying it back in to lock it in. Don't worry about getting thread wraps on top of the flash fibers, because you can always pull it out with a bobbin needle. And this one, once we get that tied in, we're going to cut the excess off the front off, just like that. And then we are going to send this to the back. So take just 2 wraps, and then once you got enough thread there, you are going to finish it off with a whip finish. And careful not to trap a bunch of fibers, but like I said, you can always peel them out with your bobbin needle. And just go ahead, do 2 or 3 or 4 wraps. Oh, there we go. And just take a nice, good pull. No, don't pull on it so that you break your thread, but give it a nice cinching tug. Cut your thread off, and then pull all your threads back. Make sure everything is good. If you did get some material on top of your eye, generally you can just take your bobbin needle and just sort of like open that eye up a little bit, and then you can always take your scissors wherever you place them down and cut them out the way. This is budget fly time, man. Got these from my mom. She's a nurse. Okay, there you go. And as you can tell, that bead is pretty hidden in the flash. And because it's flash, it's not going to absorb water, and it's going to stay like that. And it's going to cover the bead up nicely. And if you want to trim your hackle, you're good to do that too. I'm gonna do it because I had an extra long hackle feather. And then there you go. Make sure all your rubber legs are good. You can generally sort of twist them around a little bit even after they're tied in. And then you're going to want to take some super glue. I prefer the gel for this stuff because you don't want it just running everywhere. You're going to put it right under the hook shank of that zonker strip. And then you're going to pull your zonker strip tight and push it up. Make sure you're not getting material in that super glue because you'll never get it out without damaging the zonker. And that will adhere really nicely to your thread wraps on your hook shank. And if you want to trim your legs, you're good to do that. I like to have one set of legs long, and then I'll trim the front set down to about the length of where my hackle is going. And it's okay if you aren't trimming them to the same length because nature isn't always symmetrical or perfect. So there you go. It's perfect little fun tie. The Barr's meat whistle. This one's in green, olive green. And that's it. It'll be fished like this. If you have a jig hook, it'll probably be better just to get the hook point up higher and it'll ride better. But this isn't a problem. Sorry, I'm sick. If you can't tell already. And it's going to be fished like this in the water. That strip is going to be flapping in the water, getting some good movement. It's a great, in my opinion, better representation of a crawdad than a woolly bugger. So there it is. Have fun with it.